In the face of preventable death and suffering, we have a moral duty to act, and we are acting.
The United States is committed and will remain committed to achieving an AIDS-free generation. We will not back off. We will not back down. We will fight for the resources necessary to achieve this historic milestone.
On World AIDS Day 2 years ago, I set new prevention and treatment targets for PEPFAR, like increasing the number of mothers we reach so that we prevent their children from becoming infected, and helping 6 million people get treatment by the end of 2013. Today, I'm proud to announce that we've not only reached our goal, we've exceeded our treatment target. So we've helped 6.7 million people receive life-saving treatment, and we're going to keep at it.
And we've also effectively ended the left-wing scam known as USAID, the agency's name. Has been removed from its former building, and that space will now house agents from Customs and Border Patrol. Beautiful.
We are concerned about the potential impact of the decision by the United States government to suspend some of its funding for HIV and TB programs in African countries.
It was on a Friday in 2018, just like a normal Friday. But this Friday, I was not feeling well. So during the week, and then I was like, okay, I decided to ask to be on leave that day so that I can go to the clinic and find out what was wrong with me. So I'm just going in like as a casual, just to go in and get the necessary help that I need, only to find out that I was then going to be tested for HIV. And then that's when I found out. I was 20 years at the time, so I'm still young. I'm immediately in my head, I'm like, my life is over because of the stigma that goes around HIV and AIDS. So imagine being that young and not well informed up until the person that tested me really sat down with me just to try and speak life into me, telling me that everything is going to be okay.
The aim of the movement we're building in the coalition is to ensure that we do not let people die, because Donald Trump has put 20 million people living with HIV on death row and millions of other people who need clean water, who need food and so on, that the United States provided through USAID, programs that have been cut globally. And it's our duty, all of us, to resist what is going on in the United States, because it's a government that's prepared to let fascists triumph everywhere. For me, having lived through a time when people were preparing to die, people like myself who have HIV, we were preparing to die. This was 20 years ago. Now we're in a situation where people who've been planning to live, mothers who raising their children who have HIV, grandmothers who are seeing their grandchildren growing up, have been preparing to live a decent life and to enjoy what they can of a life in poverty and so on, and to make the best of it. Suddenly it is taken away, whether you're in Myanmar, whether you're in India, whether you're in South Africa, it's all gone.
South Africa's HIV response and the situation we find ourselves in is, of course, we are and have always been the country hardest hit by HIV. So we really have the biggest burden of people living with HIV of any country in the world. So that amounts to around about 8 million people living with HIV. Now, we've been really good at testing people. Been a number of campaigns over many years. So when you look at the UNAIDS 95%, 95%, 95% goals, which means UNAIDS really by 2030 would like us to have tested 95% of the people in a country. Of those who are testing positive, 95% of them should be on treatment, and of those, 95% should be virally suppressed. We do well on that first 95, but then we drop off significantly for the second into the mid-70s and even further into the sort of around 70% for viral suppression. So I would say in terms of our response, we're in our last mile, which means we really do want to find the 1 to 2 million people in the country who are living with the virus but haven't yet linked into care. They're not started antiretrovirals. Now, when you start antiretrovirals, you really do need to stay on that 1 pill a day for the rest of your life. But we know that our population, for very many reasons of, society pressures, come in and out of care frequently.
Molweni Betuna, my name is Sam Mzingelwa. I was born and bred here in Kaimandi, Stellenbosch. I always say to people, in 2018, I was on the other side of the table where I was clueless, did not know what HIV is all about. But this young 20-year-old that thought that their life is going to be over to up until now, where I had to do like some self-introspection and learn how to love myself and basically also accept this new reality of mine, that knowing now each and every day in the morning I'm going to drink my medication, but most importantly, knowing how to love myself and don't let HIV define who I was. But now I'm on the other side of the table where I'm well informed. I know what I need to do. So now I'm in a much better space, because now I want to be able to help the other people that's still on the other side of the table to say, kuyaphileka apho. That's a closer phrase that I always use, that you can live with HIV. It does not have to necessarily define who you are. Kaimandi is a very small community, but it's growing by day. We still have the same clinic that was there built many years ago. It does not basically fit the population that Kaimandi has, because there's only one clinic here. So I arrive at the clinic, as I said, it's already overpopulated. There is children that needs to be taken care of. There's casualties that needs to be taken off. There's people with treatment. It's not only HIV. There's like other treatments that people are going for to the clinic. So you can imagine now the entire Kaimandi is going there. So it can get very stressing, because you go to the clinic, you're going to sit there for the entire day. First and foremost, you need to know that you are going to the clinic, you're going to sit for the entire day, because everyone needs to be helped and they need to be able to make sure that they are helping each and every person. It does take a lot, because some other people are not going to be willing to go and sit at the clinic for the entire day. There's 9 to 5 that they need to go to. Not each and every job is going to be understanding as much. So now you're going to basically weighing, you need to go to your work because you need this money to survive, or you're going to the clinic where you're going to sit the entire day, and then there's chances that you might lose your 9 to 5 because of you've been in the clinic each and every month, or basically second month it's going to be the same thing.
In 2000, when we hit our nadir, we had really huge amounts of people acquiring HIV every day, many, many people dying of HIV and TB in particular. We really needed a great deal of resources, and of course this had not been catered for. Then very important international funding saved our skin in a way. That included the President's Emergency Fund for AIDS Relief from the United States, which was constituted in 2003 and has been in existence ever since. Those funds were very instrumental in, one, purchasing antiretrovirals, as well as, as I say, providing many of the services to keep people alive. So in the last count, we were providing about 4/5 of the money required for the AIDS response was coming from our national fiscus, and 1/5 was thanks to PEPFAR. The 1/5 that is PEPFAR is actually the biggest amount of money that goes to any country from PEPFAR. So we get proportionally a very big section of PEPFAR. PEPFAR funding in the last sort of couple of years has been very important. First of all, making sure that the health systems are robust and working well. The money was being directed to the 27 health districts that are most hard hit. So in other words, going where the need was greatest. And then it was doing a lot of what I call these last mile activities. So that was very much in the PEPFAR purview. Now, the way they worked is through these implementing partners. So these are in-country NGOs, by and large, who then employed individuals that did a lot of these last mile activities. So going out to find individuals who aren't coming to a health facility. So you've got to go into the community. You've got to look for them. That really is about sort of going up the tree and finding the fruit that isn't low hanging, and making sure that you bring them into the facilities, or you find them, test them in community and start them on antiretrovirals from mobile services or from drop-in centers and so on.
I remember having a conversation with a friend about it when Trump was elected. To me, it was one of the first things that was going to be changed. It was one of the first things that was going to go, just the whole USAID program. And I had some friends being like, let's wait and see, we don't not know for certain. I understood that perspective. I can't say I was surprised when it happened. I was disappointed. I was quite heartbroken. And I was angry. I am one of the former clients of Engage Men's Health Clinic. It was a free health clinic that you could go there. You could get not only your PrEP, but you can get HIV medication, you can get STD tests, and it was all done in a stigma-free environment. So to have that all taken away at like a whim's notice from like one signing of a paper without like any like prior notice to it, it was very devastating for a lot of people in this country. There's still a high transmission rate amongst queer people, as it was globally in the 80s. So we had to have ways of protecting ourselves. And one of those ways was PrEP. It is a tablet that you take every single day, which builds up your immunity to HIV. Engage was a space that I could go in and I could go get medication without anyone really knowing. They provided a lot of comfort and safety with that. They were very understanding of maybe why I was nervous to come in. And when they closed down, we were kind of left scrambling. Forget about PrEP just for a second and just think about HIV positive people using the service. Their only line is now gone.
When I was working, it was easy for me because when there was still that PEPFAR funding that was helping out such organizations where I was able to get treatment, where they were able to come to my workplace because it was a mobile clinic. So it was helping a lot. They would call me and tell me, Sam, we are outside. It's a monthly checkup. They come with a nurse. And then I know it's quite convenient for me that I don't have to necessarily weigh whether I'm going to work or I am going to sit to the clinic. I can basically get 2 in 1, if I can put it that way. But now, due to the cut of funding it is very stressful because now I need to go back to the clinic. I need to go stand there the entire day because remember, not each and every person is going to have the money to have access to medical aid. And sihlale lokishini, this is like where I grew up at. Now I'm back to the same clinic and all of that. It does also have impact on why people don't want to go to the clinic because the stigma is already there. You're going to be sitting in the clinic the entire day and you're going to end up saying, "Bana, let me rather not take my medication."
How the things happened, it happened so fast and quick that we never even thought this was real, this was going to happen. I thought it was a joke at first. But when I listened to the news, I spoke to one or two people, came to work, we sat down and spoke about it. I was so shocked. I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe this is really happening. And when we were still talking days later, some organizations were told to stop operating, stop providing services. You know, I remember at one point we had to tell people that, please, we're just messengers. Don't shoot the messengers. It's not us. People are very angry. People are very disturbed. People are losing trust. So it is an organization based in Cape Town, Sex Workers Education and Advocacy Task Force. What we basically do is an organization that advocates for the health and human rights of sex workers. It has been around for more than 25 years now.
When I get my diagnosis in 2000, I was sick. But now that I'm on plus minus 15 years on ARVs. My mission, I want to see this generation not living with HIV. On the issue of Donald Trump, for me, I think it's very sad, but also it's a wake-up call from our government to man up and to scale up their services. We are running a risk of having more people that are disengaging from their treatment. So it's a mess. And now we will see the infection rate that is going to align. And who is going to address that? And who is going to make sure that they fix the gap?
Well, people do not come to health facilities. They don't frequent our clinics. So PEPFAR was providing people, resources, modalities, which took us into the communities. And that's particularly important for key and vulnerable populations because they find it tricky to come to our health facilities because often they can be hostile, they can be unfriendly, they can be prejudicial, they can be discriminatory. And for these reasons, often those individuals do not want to show up in our clinics. And this is where we were really making inroads with these international donor funds. National Department of Health made a proposal to the Treasury and have been able to secure around 700 million rand to partially fill this gap. Now, rand is nowhere near dollars, so it is quite substantively less than what we would have received if we had received our usual PEPFAR funding. So again, people have heard in the news that clinics have closed, drop-in centres have closed, prevention centres have closed, mobile services have closed. So there's a good number of services that now no longer exist. There is some relief from these 700 million rand, which I believe is going to go to provinces. And I believe that provinces have plans. We have not seen sight of those plans as a sort of concerned stakeholder group, but I believe those are in existence. So I guess we're going to have to see how that plays out, how those gaps are filled. In some cases, it's counsellors in clinics. In some cases, it's data collectors. In some cases, it's the NGOs who were doing the community monitoring. So, how and where that money goes to plug the gaps, I think is not yet known, and we're going to have to see how that plays out. So there is still an enormous amount of concern, unknowns about PEPFAR, and people like ourselves, and I know the country at large, is very concerned about our response because of these funding cuts.
Our country has the best antiretroviral program in the world, and for that we thank government. But we have to keep people on medicines, and that means adherence support and being able to trace people who come off their medicines so that they don't pass on the virus. The third area is to make sure that people who are extremely vulnerable, like lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender people, that they get access to medication and to services. And the last is the USAID has provided incredible data and health system support, and government must take it over immediately. An organization like Health Systems Trust, which has closed down basically, requires all the assistance it can get, and government must step in there. So we want to see the Health Committee and the Appropriations Committee to make sure that immediately these questions are addressed in the new budget. It's our duty to ensure that the banks that take money out of Africa through interest payments, that they provide relief by renegotiating debt, by charging lower interest rates, so that the continent, which pays $89 billion in interest on debt, actually gets an opportunity to take care of its own people. Now, one of the other critical elements of our work is to make sure that India, which provides most of the antiretrovirals to other African countries, and half of our own here, that the Indian companies and their government donate antiretrovirals for free. Similarly, it is time that China makes BRICS work and contributes to making health systems work and international support. China does not give enough in aid, and we believe that not only is it at the moment the only stable global power, but that it has a duty towards the world who buys its products and whose resources it uses. So I think we can turn the crisis on HIV around, but it's going to require not 1 day, not 5 days, not 5 years. It's going to take 20 years to repair the damage that Trump has done.